What is going on, lads? Welcome to episode 6 of the Freeaboos Podcast.
We are here to discuss anime episode 1125. And I think this is the beginning of the refresh period. Like for Toei, like this is where they actually hit the reset button on the animation. Because there was some very crispy shots in it.
Oh, dog. So many... We also get to see all of the moving parts that we actually have going on in the story at once. Like, just the sheer amount of things that are happening that are important that, like, you're not able to keep track of all of them just because you focus on your favorite ones. Mm-hmm. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah. The episode is titled A Clash of Two Men's Determination, Kizaru and Sentomaru. Sentomaru always been portrayed as stick in the mud.
Yeah.
Right? And Kizaru, the definition of this is my 9-to-5 laid back ass attitude, but he will do his job to the letter, but he...
Well, also, we're getting to remind us that one, Sentomaru is no slouch, for sure. Very, very tough. But Adam Sandler is just built different. The first time we really got to see Kizaru pop off was the first time we saw the Straw Hats, capital L, lose.
First and honestly, the first and truest only time the Straw Hats as a crew took a loss. Of course, that being Saba Odi, which again was just done to show, hey, the new world, the second stage of their journey, they ain't ready for. They are going to get dog walked. And there's a YouTube channel on here, Anime Wins. They're going through all of One Piece, everything great about it, and they just put up the 400 to 405, which is which is basically the Straw Hats versus Kizaru episodes of Saba Odi, and I actually commented on it. It's like, this is what Gecko Moria meant. Like, as Luffy was defeating him, he's monologuing in his head that, like, you're not strong enough. And Saba Odi occurs, and we see what Moria meant, and this is running Saba Odi back.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, right down to the pacifistas, a bunch of Marines, and Kizaru and Sentomaru. The only difference here now, though, is Sentomaru is having to face off against the man he calls Uncle.
Which... I didn't expect to get this kind of character development from Sentomaru because I never really focused on him that much as an important and interesting character. But he actually really is critical to the first stage of this operation, the Marines invading.
Yes, but also one thing about Sentomaru is when you think back to when it was returning to Saba Odi, mm-hmm. Sentomaru led a couple pacifistas there to capture the Straw Hats because kind of like, I mean, Brooke's little concert there on Saba Odi was probably tipped the hand that the Straw Hats were coming back. But when you had DeMarco Black pretending to be Luffy, and Sentomaru was like, who in the hell are you? And he goes, I'm Mugiwara Luffy, blah, 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 the man who ran Marineford, blah, blah, blah. And Sentomaru just pancakes his head with his axe. It's like, you are scum. Mugiwara Luffy is not scum like you. So, like, there's always been that, like, I think Sentomaru's always, I'll say this, recognized bare minimum Luffy is not evil. Like, not like your
game recognizes game.
But also not evil like even like DeMarco or Kaido or Big Mom at most, but still a pirate that needs to be taken down, but not, stacking up bodies for the hell of it, and so Sentomaru's always had that respect for Luffy in a way, and now he has to rely on the pirate that he's tried to hunt down twice to protect the man Sentomaru says saved his life in Vegapunk.
Luffy and his ability to forcibly make friends.
It's truly amazing how Luffy just, like, gains friends, whether willingly or unwillingly. Is also, but also very important to note that, like, the anime does do a good job of showing that everyone isn't 100% on Egghead. Like all the clothes are marked up. Like they're kind of they got those anime scratches and stuff on their faces and clothing and stuff to show that they're not 100% from their fights with the Seraphim.
Well, not just that. A lot of the people are emotionally uninvested as well, just because of the people. For example, Sentimar and Kizaru, of course, they're homies. They don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But just as much, Kizaru doesn't want to take down Vegapunk. A lot of the vice admirals are a little scared because there's a lot of civilians still on the island.
Well, that not only that, but to them, it's like Vegapunk had been their ally for years.
Yeah, the pacifistas, they probably fought alongside the pacifistas.
Yeah, so it's like, oh god, we have to fight, we have to go against it. Oh gosh, so
not just the ones we fought beside, but ones that are stronger.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, going into the actual episode, it opens up with the Marines having to deal with the sea beasts, and we see the vice admirals. You guys are not gonna believe this one.
They held their own.
They actually did shit. Vice admirals, not named Garp, did something. They showed off. They mentioned that
the six powers.
Yeah, the six powers. Like if you don't know the six powers, stay on the ships. So they skywalked, dashed basically over. You had one vice admiral who looks like a giraffe. Use his steam fist to
one tap a sea beast.
One tap, or at least put on the shelf momentarily a sea beast. And then Vice Admiral Dahl is the only one that we know the name of off the rip. She just kicks Mark III Pacifista around some, and the other Vice Admirals show off a little bit, showing off against the Pacifistas, which, again, I do like Pacifistas being depicted as both very strong, but very detrimental to deal with, but they also don't matter in the grand scheme of things. They're not a character; they're a prop.
They're a good benchmark for the relative strength of a character, without having to actually sacrifice another relatively strong character.
Yes, and I think I mentioned in a previous episode that the Seraphim are going to be an even better benchmark for a character down the line. Oh yeah, and they'll come back because
there's no way they can.
No, you don't bring up these perfect human specimens, literally as Vegapunk calls them. They're the peak of evolution, and not bring them back. So that's going to be very interesting to see what happens with them down the line. But yes, we see the Vice Admirals get to shore and take out some of the Pacifistas, some of the Sea Beasts, but the Pacifistas and Sea Beasts are still being controlled by Sentomaru. But we do get to see the origin of the Kizaru, Vegapunk, Sentomaru, I'm going to say family almost.
We get to see the squad gearing up together, and it starts with, I think they're actually on Egghead Island itself.
I think, the island that will become Egghead. Like, because obviously, this is a built-up island.
This is clearly some time ago, and Egghead Island didn't just prop up like that. It took an immense amount of work.
And so
Adam Sandler and Vegapunk are on the island finally, and they're worried about bears, which, that could be a real nuisance. And no sooner do they finish complaining about the bears do they hear little Sentomaru having just freshly beaten up all of the bears.
A good half dozen of them, yeah. And he's
just a little guy at this point.
Sentomaru beat him up in sumo, as Sentomaru said.
These are grown grizzly bears. God bless.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see the familiar sentiment of, young kids. It gives me some Luffy vibes of, yeah, I could fight, I just beat up all these guys, and I'm clearly not stopping here.
Yeah. But Kizaru and Vegapunk are able to see through young Sentomaru's bullshit. Sentomaru's saying, I'm strong, all the villagers are weak, I don't want them. You got kicked out, didn't you? no.
Nuh-uh.
So
They're absolutely charmed by him.
yeah, and like I'm not even sure what rank Kizaru is in this flashback. I know he's not admiral because no admiral is going to be escorting Vegapunk while worrying about bears. This might be like vice admiral or rear admiral Bossolarino. But yeah, and so we see that, and little Sentomaru goes up to Kizaru and he's like, "Hey, how can I protect old man Vegapunk, Uncle?" He's like, Kizaru's like, "Uncle." Kizaru's probably like in his 30s in this flashback.
Unk status check.
And so we learned that we have to remember back in Sabaody, Sentomaru was ragdolling Luffy around.
Yeah.
Using what we now know as Rio, because like when Luffy was training in Wano, it was like Rayleigh did that, and that Battle Axe guy, because Luffy doesn't know names of people he doesn't care about really.
Yeah.
But Battle Axe guy, I remember him like hitting me, but not hitting me, and so we learn in this flashback that Kizaru taught Sentomaru, which also implicitly says that Kizaru does have this advanced armament hockey technique in his arsenal.
It's really interesting to see that Kizaru, as much as we see him mostly just rely on his Devil Fruit, crazy this, it's unbelievably busted. He actually hasn't been slacking in terms of preparing himself for those who could actually, handle him.
Mm-hmm. And it's also disturbing to see Vegapunk's naturally big head.
It is hard to look at.
It is definitely one of the more body horror images in One Piece.
He looks like a paddlefish.
The back of his head really, it just doesn't look right. It looks like there's a tree on his head or something. It is disgusting. Like, I know the apple looks weird, but I'd rather have Apple Man than big ass head man. Like, at the point that we are able to have his forehead would be an aircraft carrier.
Oh my god, at this rate, yeah.
And so then it transitions back to Sentomaru versus Kizaru. Sentomaru putting up a good showing.
For a dude who is, it looks, like we see him use the Rio, but we don't see him use a whole lot of armament hockey itself. We don't get the actual transformation.
Yeah, for some reason we didn't, like, and typically they show the armament hockey as just like blackening of whatever limb that the user is putting the hockey on, but we don't see that with Sentomaru, so like I don't know if it's one of those weird things that like, yeah, he was using it, but he wasn't, but
using it unconsciously, wasn't using it. It's the clarification on this is very annoying. It's that we see a couple of moves that Kizaru pulls that if he was using hockey, it would have affected him more, or at least we would have expected it to.
Yeah, and we see there's a little conversation back and forth between between Kizaru and Sentomaru that
your defense is great.
Why?
But mine is also perfect.
Yeah, but also like, why are you siding with Mugiwara Luffy? Kizaru asks, like, well, I'm any ally who can help me protect and save the man I am indebted to, I'm fine with. Why are you trying to kill Vegapunk? And of course, we even know studying the Void Century, boohoo, baha, but like, it to me is like it shows that how much Sentomaru cares for Vegapunk, that he's willing to fight the man who trained him, the man who's his uncle, and above all else, an admiral of the Navy. The only technically now original admiral.
The OG3 that put the fear of the Lord in half the One Piece world.
And the fan base.
Fear God and me, Jesus.
So, and again, Sentomaru puts up a good fight. He gets a good swing with his battle axe. And
we get a little blood, we get a little bruising. And
yeah, Kizaru does a little bit of bleeding, a little bit from the Ryu attack, but With the battle axe swing, Kizaru kind of pulls a katakuri where he uses his devil fruit to
Just
make
let himself be cut in half.
make the attack miss.
What?
And then Kizaru just finger points at Sentomaru and blasts his ass all the way down and ending the fight.
It's over. It's over for Sentomaru. He's not. I don't think he's dead, but he's
not dead, but he's off the board for the time being.
He drops his little. I guess it's his pacifista chip, which is like a little cube thing. Kizaru picks it up and he sends out the signal to the pacifistas, who are essentially gatekeeping the island. It's like, all right, pacifistas, your new primary objective:
destroy the sea beasts.
Destroy the sea beasts, and
they do that.
And they start messing up the sea beasts pretty fierce.
Saturn does like it's a shame to destroy them, but we'd rather have the pacifistas than the sea beast weapons. I wonder if that's one little way of Kizaru sticking it to the world government just a tiny bit. Like, hey,
nominal resistance.
Here's one less toy for you from Vegapunk. Here's one. Like, I think little things like that is what, like, because, like, he and then, like, he goes up and he says the mission objective. And because the mission objectives are rescue York, secure the power plant, and secure Punk Records.
Yeah.
We get the cool shot of Kizaru going up into the labosphere through the lasers and causing the Straw Hats that are in there to have PTSD.
Oh, they panic hard.
Because, and a very, very devious and ominous looking Kizaru saying, rescue York, save the records, protect the power plant, and above all else, eliminate Dr. Vegapunk. And it shows, like, you can actually kind of tell that he's really, like, gritting his teeth getting through this, though. He's trying to lock into this mindset he has.
As much as he is committed to this bit, his heart is definitely not in it. We also get this interesting bit in that the Labia phase is impenetrable to everyone else except Kizaru.
Because he's made of light himself, and the laser beams will beat that.
He is the singular person on Earth who could just go there.
And it's another reason why the government had to call in Kizaru to do this rather than, say, send in Green Bull. Because Kizaru is the most familiar with the island. He is the one who can get through the Labosphere defense systems, no problem.
All the defense systems are based on his powers.
Yeah, the pacifista lasers are based off of him. He is objectively the best person for the job. It's just that emotionally, Kizaru does.
He is the one who wants to do this the least.
Yes. And so, after that,
the moment of panic ensues, and we were complaining about this the whole time we watched it.
I saw this. I saw this comment. We talked about this last episode, but it really pisses me off now. Kaku is bedridden after kind of getting his ass kicked by S-Hawk. I can understand not containing Kaku. Because also Kaku's always kind of been
a little more reasonable,
a little more chill of things. But again, Kaku is way too damaged to do anything effectively.
He
might not try, but
he's the lower concern priority.
He is not able to do things at 100% at all. But the man who was going to kill a crewmate 2 years ago, who would have no problem killing your captain and you, if you're Luffy, 2 years ago. The man who you just fought like a couple days ago. And okay, I get you fought with him as well, with dealing with the Seraphim. However, why in the utter blue hell, Rob Lucci, bare minimal, doesn't have
cuff him,
just some ankle cuffs on or something?
Make it so he can't just get out.
Don't comprehend. Seriously, you have Nami and Robin and Jinbei. Like, Luffy, I can understand.
Luffy, we could see being dumb enough to let
Zoro,
that go.
I can excuse a little bit as well, because again,
He kinda
A, a
likes the
little
fight.
stupid, also B, he would kind of be daring Lucci to try something. But between Nami, Robin, and Jinbei, you and Stussy, the fact that none of those four thought to restrain Lucci in any way, it's honest. I'm going to call it. It's almost a plot hole by Oda here. Like
There's plenty of people smart enough in that room to be like, yeah, at least put cuffs on that guy.
Like, if you want to even have a little bit of a scene where Lucci is able to somehow pick the lock on it,
Yeah, I could see that.
fine.
I could see that.
Fine with that one, because
They went through the.
they made the effort to restrain him, but he is too much of a spy to be restrained. He was just waiting for the right time. I can understand that. But to not have him in any restraint at all.
Like, oh my god, dude. It was just one. It was waiting for this to happen for like an episode and a half. It's like, yeah, he did the thing he said he was going to do, which is he got up and he was about to kill Vegapunk. I mean, he was right there.
Yep. But Stussy went in and took the finger pistol, not the bullet, but the finger pistol for Vegapunk. And also, Lucci ran the absolutely most fabulous way to try to kill Vegapunk. It was very flamboyant way.
Oh, absolutely.
And for no reason other than trying to be a little styling little bitch. But, again, like, just not having him restrained at all. I'm going to say it's on them for Stussy getting hurt here.
Yeah, that is their fault.
Like, this one, I'm putting them on the Straw Hats and Vegapunks. Like, you seriously didn't leave the guy who's definitely the most cold-hearted bastard in the room. Whatever. But then Lucci goes to finish off Vegapunk. But then he senses that Zoro's incoming, and he has to deal with Zoro.
Zoro was ready for this fight.
And
as strong as Lucci is, they have this moment where it's a clash, and then Zoro just pushes right through.
This is how long has it been since Zoro fought a non-sword user? Because I think even Pika had a sword. Now, granted, it was more of a giant statue versus Zoro fight, but Pika did have a sword with him in Dressrosa.
Strictly speaking, I also wouldn't call it one a fight. Pika spent the whole arc running from him.
Yeah,
but I'm just being pedantic.
Yeah, but I think Pika did have a sword. I legitimately don't know if in One Piece, I think apart maybe from Whiskey Peak, where he was just dealing with all those assassins.
Well, everyone had guns in Whiskey Peak.
Yeah, you had guns and other bullshit, like that crucifix powder bullshit. But, like, I mean, if you want to technically clarify, I would say Dawes Bones wasn't a sword. Like, he wasn't a swordsman, he was a sword.
User, but, like,
he was a blade user.
His fingers were swords.
His whole body was.
I guess Kaku isn't strictly
No,
Kaku
used blades.
Well, he used his nose.
No, but he also had those, like, little, like, weird, long, flat sword things in Enies lobby that he fought Zoro with.
I don't even remember that. God bless.
Yeah, I remember random things like that. But and he fought Ryuma's corpse on Thriller Bark. That, Lord knows, that was a sword fight. King actually was a sword fight.
Yeah.
King actually was like, you know what, I welcome this. It's been a while since I've been able to really use my blade like this. But Lucci, straight up, no blades at all.
It's
pure hockey / awakened Zoan devil fruit / I'm going to say it, Lucci might actually be the most skilled fighter in One Piece. When it comes to pure combat skill.
If King was as smart as Lucci is, Zoro would not have won.
Oh, God, no. No. This is the inverse of King, where you have high battle IQ, but, like,
not low
hacks.
if Lucci was as strong as King was,
oh God,
this actually, I don't know if like
I don't even. I don't like that would have pushed Luffy to high diff here on Egghead.
I'm not even sure Luffy is like clearing that comfortably.
Mm-hmm. But it sets up a very interesting clash of like it feels weird. I'm sure like for Lucci it's like I'm dealing with the vice captain. I'm dealing with the number 2 of the
and
Straw
I'm
Hats.
losing anyway.
And I got my ass pushed through the walls of the Labosphere. But they because again, Lucci was I will say this, in the Water 7 arc, he was the strongest character.
Oh my gosh.
And then Enies Lobby, Luffy barely surpassed him.
Luffy got him by pulling out 2 new forms out of his ass
But
that no one had ever
then,
seen before. It's like,
and even
what?
then, like it was barely enough. I forget what like weird ass power level Fubuki gave
they
Lucci.
were doing power levels, but those were stupid.
Whatever, I think it was like 40,000 or something. Like if Lucci was 40,000 of that power level, Luffy was 40,001 in Enies Lobby. Yeah, that gap was...
Robin had to roll his ass to save it, dude.
Yeah, literally. But now, Luffy has just surpassed Lucci in every aspect.
It's not even close.
So, and now Kizaru is there, so, well, you gotta take care of someone. And, well, if you're not number 1 in the world government strength list, and you're number 2, you gotta deal with their number 2. But I know Lucci's ego probably hates that still.
Also, quick shout out to Sanji for having the fucking brains that whenever everything starts going down, he grabs the bubble gun and bubbles up Kaku immediately.
Just to make sure.
Yeah, and like,
I can understand like he couldn't bubble up Lucci because Lucci was mobile, but he did take care of one potential threat off the board.
Kaku isn't much weaker. But like he would have been a problem if he would have coordinated.
If he had tried to do anything, even not at 100%, it bare minimal, it would have required Jinbei to deal with Kaku, and you don't want to take Jinbei off the board. I mean, Frank, because in that room you had Zoro, Sanji, Robin, who was shacked up just like Kaku. Nami, Chopper, Brook, Usopp. I mean, if like Chopper and Brook teamed up, they could probably 2v1 Kaku. Again, Kaku not 100%, and Chopper in Monster Point, Kung Fu Point, whatever, and then Brook's speed could probably do the job. But again, you're not going to want to have to sacrifice 2 to deal with the injured one.
Those numbers are not adding up very nicely.
So, and also people like were freaking out about this one tiny frame in the trailer for Egghead Part 2 of Sanji pointing the gun, and probably presumably after bubbling up Kaku or right before it. But he's like dealing with, oh shit, Lucci's free, but like it's again a frame. It's just to show the oh shit factor. It's to show the okay, the chaos button has been pressed.
Yeah.
So people, I will say this, I know we talked last week about Toei doing Sanji very dirty, but to me that's just more of them showing, hey, shit's hit the fan. And any person would respond similar. Whether it's, I mean, Jinbei is one of the most stoic people, but even then he was still reacting, you know?
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, like I'm not gonna, they didn't hoe Sanji in this episode.
He had a little bit of respect on his name. It was nice.
I mean, I suppose that they took a break from the slander. And so...
Quick transition
and
back.
Then after that...
We get a glimpse of Kizaru. He's up in the Labia phase, and it's exactly as mortifying as you expect.
Yeah.
The Iron Pirate is carrying the Sunny, and they are... they're getting ready to get the F out of Dodge. And Kizaru plans on interrupting that thoroughly.
By blowing up the giant robot that is just carrying the Sunny like a bag of groceries, almost.
And like we have a quick moment where it's like, oh, everything's bad, and we even get a couple of lines from Frankie that actually didn't even register to me that they weren't the OG voice actor, which proves he is definitely putting in the work.
His voice was I was more on board with this episode because you heard a little bit more of that rolling, like not quite super, but Frank. Like he got that little bit more of that roll that fans love of Frankie in this episode.
Oh yeah.
So again, still haven't had the first super. Still waiting on that, and again, that's
coming.
That's the
real benchmark.
That's the benchmark. If it's a good super, we'll allow it. But if it's a bad super, oh boy, the fans are gonna let their Twitter fingers fly.
You know he's probably practicing it in the mirror every night.
Yeah,
just to get it right.
Because otherwise, it's gonna be a very bad time for him. But
we don't want to terrorize the voice actor or anything. It's just we've come to have very high expectations.
I mean, Water 7 was what? End years of Baby Bush administration, beginning of Obama administration.
That was that was like 2 entire recessions ago.
So yeah, like we've known Frankie for a very long while, like in terms of number of episodes and everything. I mean,
we're just very accustomed to a specific set of standards, and the OG voice actor did an incredible job. We're gonna make room for the new guy. We're gonna hope he does his best.
We're gonna let him pick up the underwear from the stage, which was very funny.
That was actually very emotional, as funny as it was.
Yes, but yeah. So, but again, we have to remember Frankie's in his mid-30s. And it does sound more youthful.
Yeah, it's a little less goblin-y and a little more
young goblin rather than old crotchety goblin.
Yeah.
But but we see Kizaru just raising up a finger to shoot the giant robot, and we know that that's going to probably one-tap the robot.
Yeah, he had zero intentions of letting that thing get away. Luffy is already on it. He is so excited for this. Like, it's time to go. Kizaru's talking, and Luffy just straight up interrupts him to kick him in the chest.
Yeah.
He just barely catches it. Like,
that's
rude.
Kizaru blocks it, but like, that's very rude. And Luffy says, it's been a while, Kizaru, but we're 100 times stronger than we were 2 years ago, which would have been Sabaody. But I find that word, that phrasing very interesting because when the Straw Hats are first in Shaki's tavern, Shaki, Rayleigh's wife, she says to them, "Oh, I'm not worried about my husband because he's 100 times stronger than you all." Now, I don't know about you though, because Sabaody Rayleigh and Sabaody Kizaru, if they duked it out
band for band,
bell to bell, Kizaru was going to win. Kizaru was going to win because
the key word we kept using was probably. Kizaru would probably win.
Yeah,
but the level of destruction that it would take to be sure would be disastrous.
Yes, but Kizaru was only breathing a little harder than normal, whereas Rayleigh was full on panting when they were clashing.
Oh yeah.
So, that's why I think Kizaru probably would have beaten Rayleigh when Rayleigh was, quote, 100 times stronger than the Straw Hats. And now Luffy's saying the exact same thing of we're 100 times stronger. So, if you just do that parallel math,
he's in the ballpark.
He's saying I'm equal to Rayleigh from 2 years ago. I know that that's not probably what is meant, but when you just look at the words as words, that's what they mean. And it's like, is that enough?
Is that enough?
Is that enough? You and your... Because, Rayleigh was definitely using his hockey back then because they were talking about, he hit Kizaru when the Straw Hats couldn't. Brook couldn't. Usopp, they were there trying to save Zoro, and Kizaru was just standing there letting them do that shit while he was charging up his laser beam to kill Zoro.
Well, we also get this. We have a nice bit just to think about. We have had everything that could possibly go right for Luffy go right, and we have everything that could possibly go wrong for Kizaru go wrong.
Yeah,
and that could he take him? Probably not. Has shrunk down to I don't know. It's not that clear anymore.
Kizaru is a very different fighter than like what Luffy's had to deal with. Because Luffy's last fights have been Kaido,
who he wanted that fight. He was so excited for that fight.
but Kaido is a completely different type of fighter. The most similar fighter Luffy has fought to Kizaru post time skip, I would say, is Katakuri.
Yeah.
And that was one where Luffy was trying to unlock Future Sight.
That fight was rough. And Luffy should not have won.
Luffy just, like, that was just fighting for literal hours. Like, that's not even a exaggeration. They literally fought for hours.
It was an endurance fight.
Yeah. I think that's the longest singular fight that Luffy's had. No, I mean, not to say that Kaido wasn't a long fight.
No, in terms of like actual.
In terms of start of ring bell ringing at first and the bell ringing at the end of the fight, I think that's the longest fight because Roof Piece, while obviously
it was an evening.
It was one evening and not even because it was already night when the raid on Onigashima started. So
yeah.
It was probably like 4 or 5 hours of actual raid time, give or take, maybe 6. But
like, the fight with Katakuri was.
But the fight, I think it literally took like 8 hours. Like, it took however long it would have taken to make the cake. And
I know at one point I went and actually got into a solid number on it. It's for sure his longest fight to date. It's just the specific numbers are escaping me at the moment.
Yeah.
It's upsetting me.
I think it might have been like 8 to 10 hours.
At the very least, nearly half a day.
And because that fight started in the daylight, the sun was up, and they escaped the mirror world at midnight. So yeah, you're looking at 8 to 10 hours for the Katakuri fight, and that's still the longest fight. I think that's the longest duration on-screen fight we've seen, apart from that flashback fight of Roger Whitebeard, which was 3 days.
Was it
and the
Jinbei, Ace?
Jinbei and Ace, yeah, that's true. 5 days, I think.
A number of days.
And then Kaido and Big Mom also fought for 3 days, I think. But of course, the longest fight that we know of is Akainu and Aokiji. That was 10 days. No, I'm mistaken. I am completely wrong on that. The longest fight is Dory versus Brogy for 100 years. Now, granted,
they fight for like an hour in the afternoon every day.
No, they fought basically the entire day almost. Like they from the first volcanic eruption to the last one of the day. But
they did so much time hunting and fishing, so they could actually be at their strength.
Yeah, that's also fair. But yeah, we can assume that Akainu and Aokiji probably had a similar system of after a time hit. When a time hit, it was pause to rest / recover for nutrients and stuff. And I'm even going to assume Kaido and Big Mom had something similar. Because I don't see them fighting for 3 days straight. I don't see Big Mom having that stamina to go for 3 days. Kaido, maybe, but not Big Mom. But Kizaru and Luffy, like, it's again like Egghead is split up into almost 2 different days. We know that it's multiple days in world because like the news circulates and stuff like that, and we know that. But in terms of the actual action, the arc is only basically 2 days. The arc is CP0 pulling up the same day the Straw Hats do, and Luffy Lucci round 2, where Luffy catwalks Lucci, and then the actual raid of Egghead is a whole separate day with Kizaru, the Gorosei, and everything else. But that's only, again, 2 different days in terms of combat and stuff. It's only 2 separate ones. But it was a very good episode setting up the start of God, the first Yonko Admiral clash since Marineford.
The first real fight Luffy will have with an admiral where he can win. Like, it's on the table.
Yeah. Fujitora and Dressrosa would have dog walked Luffy.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. We may underplay the Fujitora and Green Bull, but they are look.
The only reason Fujitora didn't wipe the island is he didn't want to kill everyone there. That was it.
Like, let's keep it a buck. There's no way Akainu is going to have scrubs as his admirals.
No, I don't think that he's not buggy. No one's gonna reach admiral without having some real chops.
Yeah. But like, this is also in the world of One Piece the first time you have had Marines versus Yonkos publicly announced, really. Like, in dealing with an admiral and Yonko since Marineford. Yeah. Sure, you had the Marines and Kobe with Blackbeard, but that wasn't...
That's not the same situation.
This is not the same. And Garp versus... And it wasn't even Blackbeard, it was Kuzan. Granted, Garp did attack a Yonko's home base. But
that wasn't approved by the government. No. The full backing of the Navy.
Yeah, no, there's literally just Garp's ship, and that was it. Garp's ship, some of Sword, some other Marines that really like Kobe, but yeah.
That was almost enough to win that fight. Baffling.
If Kobe was not so good-hearted, that would have been enough.
Yeah.
They just preyed on Kobe being too helpful and nice, letting Shiryu shish kebab Garp. But yeah, the first, and I'm going to say this, planned Marines versus Yonko clash since Marineford. Because, again, the interaction with Blackbeard was not planned in any sense. They did not expect Blackbeard to pull up to Amazon Lily. Rayleigh did not expect that one. Rayleigh only expected the Marines. He did not suspect that Whitebeard's cabin boy was going to be there.
He swam through the calm belt for that. I'll get there.
Yeah. It's impressive, but... And... Again, like, it's like, oh boy. Like, and again, in the world of One Piece, the story and the narrative is evil pirate Emperor Straw Hat Luffy has taken Vegapunk hostage and the Straw Hats have barricaded themselves in Egghead. And so they can say Kizaru is leading the rescue operation. It's the inverse, but that's the word.
That is the narrative.
The citizens of the world of One Piece only know that narrative. Now, granted, I will say this. It is clear that some groups and organizations can find out the truth, like the World Economic Journal, but also the Revolutionary Army, because post-Enies Lobby, Dragon sees Luffy's poster, and he's like, who's this? Oh, this is Straw Hat Luffy. The combined bounties is like 500 million or something like that, of the whole crew at the time. Mm-hmm. And like, he's the one who actually took down Crocodile in Alabasta.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, in public, they were saying Smoker took down Crocodile. But clearly the Revolutionary Army could figure out the truth in some way. We don't know how, but they did. So the truth will probably come out. Whether how far it spreads is a different story. But this is where, like, Vivi, being on Morgan's ship, blimp thingy, can be a factor for the truth to come out eventually. And also the wild card of Kizaru, because, like, he's going to feel guilty of what he's done.
You know what's interesting thing about it is that, like, Dragon has been minding his own beeswax. Send the email. Like, the one time he showed up to save Luffy's life is when Buggy tried to kill him. The least of the Yonkos.
Well, he rescued Luffy from Smoker as well. And I think we're going to actually see here in Egghead that Dragon had actually gone to Logue Town to grab Luffy to have him join the RA, the Revolutionary Army. But I think he saw Luffy's conviction of wanting to be a pirate, and he was like, okay, fine. I'm going to let you do your thing, son. If that includes making Smoker shit his pants.
Also, quick shout out to like the small feat that we didn't realize would be so hard in the paint right now, with how strong Seastone Prism still is.
Yeah.
Dragon just grabbing his
handle.
His poker thing.
Granted, Smoker's thing, the Sea Prism Stone's only on the tip of it, so that's why he'll jab it into like Luffy's throat or his chest and stuff. But he grabs the handle, because obviously Smoker has to touch it himself.
Oh, yeah.
So the handle's safe, but Smoker goes to grab it, and Dragon is like, no.
Which also,
And-
especially power scaling from back then to now, it's like, oh yeah, this guy could actually rip me in half.
Yeah. Again, I think I've said this joke before. Smoker wanted all the smoke from Luffy and Buggy and everyone, and all the other pirates
little guys.
in the East Blue.
He was a big fish in the East Blue.
No, he was he technically Grand Line? No, he was before the Grand Line. He was the road bump before entering Reverse Mountain.
Yeah.
But even then, like, it was clear Smoker was bored of all these weak pirates. But he also knew that these pirates would do anything to anyone.
Oh yeah.
And you know, all it takes is one bullet when you're caught lacking, and even a Logia can get caught lacking.
Yeah.
Because we saw in Alabasta, one of the funniest moments, Luffy just launching himself into the restaurant, crashing into Smoker, who then crashes into Ace, who's... Okay, Luffy causes a crash of 3 people, himself and 2 Logias.
Both of them just like, what?
But they're caught so off guard that the quote attack lands.
Yeah.
So it's possible for a Logia to get got if